Hello, everyone. Cecil Martin here.
Hey, this is Hunter Henry.
What's up, man? This is Max Crosby, part of Raider Nation.
Hey, this is Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman.
Hey, it's Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks.
Hey, this is Jerry Judy, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and you're listening to the 14-Yard NFL Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Full 10 Yards NFL podcast. I'm your host, Sam Moores, and today I am joined for the first time by Owen Cawdell. Welcome, Owen. How are you doing today, mate?
Not bad, mate. Not bad. It's an honour to be here. How are you?
I'm good. Well, we know each other very well. We're recording this in the exact same house right now. So yeah, I'm on the top floor. He's in the basement. But yeah, no, Owen is a sports journalism student at the University of Gloucestershire, like me, like Ollie Darcy and Charlie Grace, who has also been on the podcast too. He's a fellow Full 10 Yards contributor as well. He wrote about the NFC West for the Guide, and we'll be talking about the NFC West, but also the entire NFL today, as it's a big one. We're going to be predicting the 2023 NFL season. We're only a few days away from NFL kickoff. The game on Thursday night between the Super Bowl winning Kansas City Chiefs and the Detroit Lions, and we're just under a week away from the first Sunday of the NFL season. That leads us on nicely to the fact that you can join us at Full 10 Yards, and many other NFL fans too, at Falcons in Birmingham to celebrate the start of the 2023 NFL season. This Sunday you can join our team and fellow UK fans in watching every game from the 6 p.m. kickoffs right through to Sunday Night Football. Tickets are now free, or you can buy a bundle that includes up to 6 drinks, with the drinks getting cheaper as you buy more. So come along and meet some fellow UK-based NFL fans, and I think it's going to be a great turnout for us. We've had over 50 people sign up to the party already, and we've still got a week to go. So it'll be nice to see some of you listeners at the party. Feel free to challenge me to a game at pool, which Owen rightly well knows I'm awful at. So
it's a pretty easy win. I'm not gonna lie, for sure.
Yeah, so it'll be nice to see you all at the party next week, and visit www.full10yards.co.uk to get your ticket now. It's free, like I said, and finally there will also be some giveaways too, as we've got a copy of Madden 24 and an NFL jersey of your choice to be won too. So like I said, go onto the website, get your free ticket now, or you can there's a link on Twitter as well. It's our pinned tweet on the Twitter page too. It'd be nice to see you all there at the party this week, and let's just get into some football. Really, honestly, I just want to watch these games.
Yeah.
It'll be nice to watch these games with you guys. Right then, Owen, let's get into the predictions. Starting with how you think the AFC North goes, going from your 4th place team to your winner.
AFC North. Okay, hang on. Let me just load up my stuff here. It's been I spent quite a lot of time deliberating over the AFC North because it's quite a tight division if you look at it at face value. You got 4 teams that all 4 of them have good rosters at face value, and they all look okay. But in the 4th, I think it's going to be the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, so it's a really tight division. I think it's going to be tight. I don't think there's going to be many wins and losses between them, but I do have Cleveland Browns at 4. Just they haven't got the talents to compete with the rest of people in their division, and I think it'll become pretty apparent pretty early on that they will struggle, especially in divisional matchups. And it's one of them things where they can either really surprise us and look like a really good high-profile team, but I just don't expect them to. I expect them to struggle a bit initially with Deshaun Watson coming back properly this time. I know he played a couple of games and at the end of last season, but it's an up and down team. They have great talents on defense, 100%, but it's not. It can't compete with the rest in the division. I'm afraid.
And your 3rd?
My 3rd is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I've got them going 9-8. I'm really hot on the Pittsburgh Steelers, to be honest. I think Kenny Pickett, I'm a big fan of. I think it's going into his 2nd year. Is it 2nd or maybe 3rd?
It
feels like he's been in the league a lot longer. I'm not going to lie. It feels like he's been there for a while, but I'm a big fan. I know around the league there's some skeptics, especially because he wears 2 gloves. But I'm a big fan. They've great defense. They got TJ Watt and Minka Fitzpatrick, which go together great. And I'm a big fan Mike Tomlinson. I think he's a great head coach for them. And I'm a big fan of what they did in the draft as well. I think they've improved from last year, and I think they just miss out on playoffs, but not by much. I think they will surprise a couple of people. I think I've got them at 9-8, and I've got them at probably playing better than 9-8 represents. I think they'll be good, but they'll just miss out on the playoffs.
Yeah, I'll jump in here by naming my fourth and third. So fourth, I've got the Baltimore Ravens, a team they haven't mentioned yet. It's a bit of a controversial this one. This it is just. I just don't see how everything gels this year because they've got a lot of new parts in this team. Whether it's the fact that they got Todd Monken coming in as offensive coordinator, going to a more passing heavy offense, which will be interesting to see how Lamar fares because I don't think he's that great of a passer. Other than his deep ball. And also the entire offense has a terrible injury record because you've got Rashad Bateman who's had injury issues, Odell Beckham, Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins. Basically, every single running back on that team has been injured in the past. It's one of those things where it's like I don't trust this team. The defense has been good, but it's not what it has been in Baltimore recently by any means. They still lack a pass rush. It'll be interesting to see how David Ajabu gets on this year. His first proper year in the league. Obviously out of Michigan, but he's got a Scottish heritage. This I can't state this enough. This is a massive year for Lamar Jackson because he has to look something like his MVP self for 2019 because he's got his massive contract now. Although it's not what he wanted, he's not on the level of Herbert or what Burrow will get. He needs to prove that he deserves to be paid like the top QBs when they revisit his contract in a few years' time because he's not signed this massive contract that Herbert and Mahomes have. He's only signed a couple-year deal because Lamar's a difficult person to pay. He's got injured a lot. The way we saw it with Michael Vick and other memorable quarterbacks, they last less time in the league. It's one of those things with Lamar where it's just like it's a massive season for him, but I can't see next season is my year for the Ravens. I think this year is just a bedding in year, and if they stay healthy, it's great, and that's the main thing, just keeping everyone healthy. Really. In third is a team that you have mentioned, it's the Cleveland Browns. You've got them going 11-6. I really like this division. Look, if Deshaun Watson can return to the football player that he was in Houston, this team are going to be good, and that's what I'm sort of banking on. The football player, not the person, because less about that the better.
Okay,
yeah. Nick Chubb is one of the best players in football, period, let alone running back. He's the best running back in football too. And the defense will be better this year as well. I've got Jim Shorts in the defensive coordinator because it sucked last year with Joe Woods. And saying that, even though it sucked, Myles Garrett still got 18 sacks because he's an absolute freak. So this team is super talented, super well talented. And it's just whether I think you alluded to it there. It's just whether it all comes together because they got the pieces, especially on defense. Mm-hmm. But if they miss out on the playoffs this year, I don't think Kevin Stefanski is going to survive his job. So I think the main thing is here. I'm sort of banking on the Browns under pressure, surprising everyone because if not, this whole Deshaun Watson experiment was a massive mistake, and that's ultimately what it is, right?
That's why I haven't been fourth because I think they won't gel, and I think they will underperform, and I think it will go down as a mistake. And we both see both sides of it, but we're taking different sides on it. So it'd be interesting to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, so we've not mentioned your two, or you've not spoken about the two teams yet that are your top two, and obviously I'm assuming the Ravens and the Bengals. My number two is a team you have mentioned. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they're going to go 11-6-2, just beating the Browns to second place. They're my dark horse this year. If the offensive line is better, I'm confident in saying that Mike Tomlin is going to have another winning season. There's lots of hype surrounding Pickett in his second year. You mentioned the preseason's gone swimmingly as well. The run game's going to be good as well because you've not only got Najee Harris, but you've also got Jalen Warren now as well, who's come on recently. And you've got the additions on defense too. You've got Joey Porter Jr. Obviously, his dad played for the Steelers before, and they drafted him out of Penn State. And they've also added Pat Pete as well at DB. So the defensive backroom should get better. You'd like to think too. You've had Alan Roberts at linebacker too, and obviously TJ Watt's one of the best edge rushers in the NFL, and I predicted him to get Defensive Player of the Year in the awards episode with Ollie Darcy last week as well. So a couple of days ago. It's been a long week, but I predicted Ollie Darcy. So I predicted TJ Watt to have the to win Defensive Player of the Year with Ollie last week, and I think I just think it's going to be a great season for the Steelers, and I think they're going to be a playoff team. Spoiler alert for what we'll get into later. They're going to be a playoff team, and I think they will surprise as well. But they're not on the same level as the Bengals. I'm assuming you have them as the division winner, but what do you see the Ravens doing as your second place? I assume.
They're similarly to the Browns. I agree with all your points on the Ravens, but if this offense stays healthy, Lamar's got a big thing to prove. He's been paid. Like he's got what he wanted in terms of it. Probably not as much money as he wanted, but the holdout was quite high profile, and he got what he wanted. He got paid. Now he needs to play like we all know he can. And I think if he does, and if the offensive weapons, like you got dependable offensive weapons in Mark Andrews, and you got if Odell comes back like Odell, even maybe not even Giants Odell, but when he was playing with the Rams, that's the Super Bowl game comes to mind. He was MVP of that game, and he played half a game. So it's you could argue Aaron Donald, but you know what I mean. It's sort of like if these offensive talents turn up for him, even Zay Flowers, I think Zay Flowers was a good pick for them. I think he can offer a number I mentioned.
Him and Mark Andrews are the hope because they're two new pieces being added to. Well, no, obviously Andrews hasn't been added, but he's consistently been there. You know, he's been the only guy for Lamar Jackson. Really,
he's dependable.
Yeah,
he
is the dependable option at tight end. Now, people sort of cast aside him because he is a tight end. Like it's very much like Kelsey in Kansas City.
Yeah,
he is Lamar's number one receiver. You know, pass catcher.
100%.
Yeah, and then everything else that happens beyond that is what we're looking for. And Zay Flowers, I think, he's very quick, and that really with Lamar's deep ball. Like I said, he has a good deep ball, so it could be a great season for Zay Flowers. It's just we're just waiting for it to happen. And honestly, look, for all four of these teams having winning records, we've both predicted that.
But I don't have the Browns. I have Browns 8 and 9.
So I do,
normal.
but it's one of those divisions where it's very hard to call, and I assume, well, other than the Bengals, which they're my number one seed this year. I think they're going to be huge, or they'll have a huge year in the regular season. I'm not sure about the Super Bowl, but this is their best shot at Super Bowl. Burrow is my MVP pick. I think they're going to get the 1-2, like I said in the last podcast. He's playing for a monster contract. He's playing to get paid way more than Justin Herbert has. Obviously, because that deal has not been done yet. I think him actually getting injured for a little bit in camp has helped his case there as well. So if he has a massive season this year, he's going to get a humongous contract. And look, if the O-line stays healthy and Jesse Bates isn't too big of a miss at safety as well, this may be their best shot at the Super Bowl because the receivers want to get paid too, and you know this is their Super Bowl window. You know, it's coming to an end really. This is the time for the Bengals, isn't it?
I completely agree. It's their golden era sort of, and it's payday, and they're going to be on it. And if Joe Burrow comes back healthy, because I know there is some concern, but it looks like he will be playing week 1, I think they will be fine. I think they'll float to the top of this division comfortably, and I think they will compete in the later stages of the season because they know it's coming to an end. They've got some aging players, and it is the best shot they've had in decades to go far and win a Super Bowl. And I love the Cincinnati fans. They've been so hard done by, and I just think they deserve it. They deserve it. So I want the best from them, and I think this is the best shot they have at doing everything, getting to the promised land. And well, I think there's some teams on the other side of the NFL and the NFC that probably are licking their lips at the opportunity to play them in the postseason and thinking maybe they have better weapons. But I think we've seen time and time again the likes of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and the whole Bengals team turn up when it matters. And I think if they continue to do that, they'll breeze the regular season. We'll see what happens postseason.
They're the opposite of the Chargers. They surprise in the playoffs, or when it matters. The Chargers falter when it matters. The Bengals surprise when it matters. On to the AFC East now. Talk me through the AFC East. Your fourth, third, second, and first teams will go a bit differently this time.
Okay.
And also, can I get your record for the Bengals, by the way?
My record for the Bengals, I have them at 11-6.
Okay, I have them at 12-5. So yeah, pretty similar there.
Yeah,
okay.
No, it's pretty similar.
Go on, Owen. I'll give you the floor. Talk me through the AFC East.
Am I going in reverse order or?
Yeah, so fourth to first, yeah.
Okay, so in fourth, I have the Patriots. Not really a surprise here. I mean, they've made some... I'm a fan of what they've done in this offseason. You know, bringing in Juju, Zeke, Mike Gesicki. They're good additions. It's just so uninspired, really. I mean, yes, Bill Belichick can easily drip out 7-8 wins out of this team, and they did a great draft. Christian Gonzalez, I don't know how they let Christian Gonzalez fall to Bill Belichick, because everyone knows that's going to be another elite defensive back in a couple of years. But the defense is good. I think they will play better than they did last year, but I don't think their record will reflect that. I think they were 8-9 last year. I have them going 6-11. I think I've probably been a bit harsh there. I've been a bit harsh, but they've got talent. It's just so uninspired. I'm not too hot on Mac Jones. I think it's do or die now for Mac Jones, really. He's got to prove that he can hang with the best. I mean, it was a tough situation anyway, because they've had Brady for so many years and they're used to the best. So it's a tough situation for him, but I think it's swim or sink, and I think he sinks, and I think they're going to have an off year. Like every year, there's a couple of teams that underperform. I think Patriots are one of them.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be with Bill Belichick as well. This is a tough year for him, because it looks like that Robert Kraft wants to win games again, and I don't think Belichick will ever get fired, but there might be a little sort of like mutual separation at the end of the year or something like this, maybe, because ultimately he has not been a good head coach without Tom. So,
No. Yeah,
anyway,
exactly.
Yeah, that's it. Your third place team, mate.
I know you're not going to be a fan of this, but in third, I do have the Miami Dolphins. And I think you wouldn't argue with them being a third, but you probably would argue with me giving them an 8-9 record. Which, at face value, you look at the talent and you're thinking 8-9, they're way better than an 8-9 team. If Tua gets hurt, I'm not trusting this team. Skylar Thompson's your backup. You got talent.
White, look, one of the two.
Or Diamond Mike White. Yeah, you got talent. But
yeah, I was going to say as well, with whoever it is as the backup, they've been interchangeable in camp as well. So and Mike White's not really been the guy that Miami has paid in the offseason this training camp so far, from what I've read. That may change. Everyone says he's a bit of a gamer, that he sort of gets into the momentum and then thrives, like he did with the Jets. But so far in training camp, there's been a competition there between him and Skylar Thompson for the backup job, and ultimately both of them made the roster as well.
Yeah, I mean, no one could deny your talent. It is that big factor. I hope he doesn't get hurt. I hope Tua has a great year, because I think everyone in the league wants to see the best from him, because it's his story in itself through college. Well, I wouldn't say everyone in the league, but people who are on the NFC side of supporting teams would like to see him do well. And I think you got great defense, you got great offense. It's just that big question mark. I'm also not sure about Mike McDaniel. Was good last year. We'll see how he settles in second year. See if there's a second year slump. I don't know if that's a thing with head coaches, but I'm still not the biggest fan of Mike McDaniel either. So I've gone a bit harsh. I've gone 8-9, but it's similar to the Patriots. They're in a very tough division, and I think they lose quite a lot of division matchups. So I have them with an 8-9. I'll have you going 2-4 versus your division. So
yeah, on to your second team, mate.
Second team, I have the Jets, and I know everyone seems to be really hot on the Jets. I have them going 10-7. I like them. They're a good team. It's Aaron Rodgers. It's hard to bet against Aaron Rodgers, but it's going to be a settle-in period, and I think the first 3 or 4 weeks they're going to realise that it's going to be a settle-in period. I don't know. If you watch Hard Knocks, it would seem that everything's rosemary and everything's going to go off with a bang. But there is some holes still on that team. There is some holes, and I would argue you got some holes. I'm just saying.
I think the Jets have a lot of depth, and that's the thing with
they have a lot of depth, but like if you look at starting positions, I believe overall Miami have better starting positions, and I guess Bills do as well. They have depth, that's in their favour, but I believe there'll be a bit of a teething period with Aaron Rodgers, and I think they might struggle matching up against the Bills 1-on-1. So I haven't going 10-7. I think yes, it'll be an improvement on last year, of course it will, but I think they make playoffs. I think I'm comfortable in saying they make playoffs, but I think people are a bit too hot on them. I think they might be a bit etchy to start out the season. I think we'll see how they go, but I have them at 10-7, and I think that's fair.
There we are, and then that means you've got the Buffalo Bills as your division winner again.
I have.
Buffalo got a bit of a dominance in this division in the AFC East recently, since the Patriots have lost Tom Brady. But I didn't see it continuing. Spoiler alert there, but you do. And what's your record for the Bills, firstly, and how good do you think they got of a chance do you think they've got once they move out of the regular season this year as well?
I've got them going 12-5, and I finished my list of predictions. I went, wow. I'm not sure if they will get 12-5, but I've got them at 12-5, so I'm going to stick to it. They got talent. They know what it's like. It's been the same group of players really for the past 2-3 years. I mean, they don't think they lost any big names over the course of the free agency. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think
they lost Tremaine Evans at linebacker, and
that's
to
the
the
big one.
Bears. But that's it. Most of the starters are back. The thing with Buffalo is they got injured last year. The players got injured last year. That's why they fell off at the end.
Mm-hmm. That's if they can
all the
stay
starters
healthy.
Are back.
Yeah, if they can stay healthy, I think they don't breeze the division. But I think there's a notable thing of they've been here before as a collective. They know what situation they're in. They know what they need to do to succeed, and I think they do. I think Sean McDermott can lead this team comfortably. He runs a tight ship, and I'm 12-5. I've got them going 5-1 versus the division, which
wow.
I don't know how it ended up like that, but I'm hot on them, and I think I have good right to be because I think they proved time and time again that they are that team. They are the team that will be in the postseason for 2 or 3 years to come, if not more. So I think Josh Allen, I think he has a great year. I don't think he wins MVP, but I think he's in the contention all year. And I don't really have much to add. I think everyone knows how good the Bills are, and I think even in this tough division, I think they rise to the top.
Well, it's their quick strike offense that really keeps them in every single game because look, they can't run the ball. They can't run the ball, which is their one real gripe against the Bills. That's my one. It's just they can't run the ball, but their offense wins them games and keeps them in games, like we saw from the very start of this sort of run in the games against Kansas City and everything. They can score very quickly and they are very difficult to beat because of that. My predictions: I've gone the Patriots 8 and 9 to come last. Again, I had them at 5-12 last year because I knew it was going to be a disaster, and somehow they managed to get an 8 on record because they weren't great at all last year. I think the schedule was quite favourable to the AFC East last year, which kind of helped them, but this year it's not. It is the hardest schedule in the league. The Patriots, the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Bills have the hardest schedule in the league. All the division does, and they're clearly the fourth most talented team in the division. The offense, there's no doubt the offense can get better because you've got a competent play caller now in Bill O'Brien compared to Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, who'd never played coached offense to that level before.
Exactly.
And I hopefully we see what we saw from Mac Jones' rookie year. But look, the division is the best in football, and you have to play the majority of the best teams in this league with this schedule. And I can't see them competing against not only the division, but they've got to play Philadelphia, Kansas City, Dallas. There's some heavyweights. There's some heavyweights on the schedule for the Patriots, and they just aren't good enough. I think I've got them at 8 and 9 because Belichick is such an important year for him. The defense has to play well, and if you can get 8 wins for this year, I think that's a real turning point for the Patriots this year. But if they struggle any further than this, and you've got to have serious questions about what happens. But I've got the Patriots. They're a tough opponent, always have been, always will be, but they've struggled to win games recently, and I think that will win many games recently. I think that will continue. My third place, the Miami Dolphins. I've got the same as you. I've got them at 9 and 8. So only
I thought you'd
more.
have them a little.
No.
So that surprised me a bit, but yeah.
Look, before training camp, my opinion on the Dolphins was very high, but you've lost Jalen Ramsey for the season now. It's, not for the season, but for the most of the regular season, that's changed things.
Yeah, most part, yeah.
It has. And look, I sound like a broken record because I say this every single week, it feels like, but Tua has to remain on the field to even beat success because we saw last year the Dolphins were just nothing about Tua. And obviously, it's the same with any team when you lose your starting quarterback, but Tua especially, the way this offense flows around him, because the Dolphins couldn't find success with Skyler or Mike White at all last year, which is a surprise, and maybe that will change this year. Will Tua miss games, but the main thing is he has to remain games, and look, if he plays less than 15 games this season, will be a disappointment because I can't see it. Mike Daniel's a great coach, but it's incredibly, in my opinion, I really like what he's done. That's side of the ball, especially you got the veteran presence of Vic Fangio on the defensive side of the ball as well, so that's gonna be a lot better. But for me, look, they're just the Bills and the Jets are just better teams, and their quarterbacks stay healthy. Rodgers has only missed two real big injuries. Like Rodgers has stayed healthy the rest of his career. He had his elbow and he had something else early in his career as well. Early in the starting career anyway. And then Josh Allen hasn't. He's a robot. He's not human. The way he can take those hits and everything. So, and that's my thing. The Bills, the Dolphins, and the Jets are all immensely talented. They're all really similar actually. The Dolphins beat the Bills last year. They were in every single game last year. But I just feel like even though the Bills are without Von Miller to start the year, and this Stephon Diggs stuff feels real. To be fair, that there's a little bit of unrest in Buffalo. Yeah. But for me,
he's denied it many times, but he's not kidding anyone. Is he? It sort of seems a bit.
So I've got the Dolphins going 9-8, and I've got the Bills going 11-6 in second place. But my number one team are the New York Jets at 11-6, just winning on countback, or one of the. They win in some metric because they've got the same 4-2 in division record as the Bills do. But look, I'm buying into the hype here. I've got a feeling they're really going to go far. And they've got a 2-year window as well. So if it doesn't happen, you mentioned there might be a bedding-in period. If it doesn't happen this year and they come, gets forward towards the end of next year, they've got next year too. And Rodgers seems fully in, which I didn't think he would be at the start of the season, but this off season, but he really does. The defense is great. You've added first round picks to the defense as well. You got two first round edge rushers the last 2 years, and Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald, who don't even necessarily get a starting role in this defense, which is just absurd.
It's crazy.
The talent is just amazing. They've added Dalvin Cook to Breece Hall, which is like I'm just awe of this team as a Dolphins fan. It's just I'm in awe of this team, and that it could blow up. But for me, I just buying into the hype here. I think the Jets will just pick the Bills to the division, but those two, it's going to be a tough race. And I think ultimately what will keep Miami in third at 9-8 is Tua. That's it. I think. I think if Tua stays healthy, then they'll stay in division. But I can't see it happening because it's not happened before.
He could surprise us all and have a full healthy year, and you guys.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm a huge Dolphins. Like I said, I'm a huge Dolphins. I'm higher on Tua than most people are. But for me, it's always been the health, and you can't mention Tua's name without talking about it, and that's the thing. And I'm just hoping that can change at the end of the season, and that's what I'm looking for really, rather than a successful Dolphins season. Anyway, on to the AFC West. I'll go first this time and change up a bit. I've got the Raiders in fourth at 4-13. They've got no direction whatsoever. The offense may be good, but I just have no faith in Josh McDaniels whatsoever as a coach, because the New England coaching tree does not work. Obviously the main successors out of it were Bill O'Brien, who again no longer has a job as a head coach, and Brian Flores, who again no longer has a job as a head coach. I think with them as well, both of them, the power got too much, and ultimately Bill O'Brien traded DeAndre Hopkins with David Johnson, and Brian Flores had a lot of issues in Miami towards the end as well. So it's just I think Belichick's a legend. He's probably the greatest coach of all time, but the problem with working with Bill Belichick is you are not Bill Belichick, and I think that's the case with the Raiders too. It just seems like a repeat of his time in Denver. He's had his QB change. Jimmy Garoppolo is not an upgrade for Derek Carr. I actually think Derek Carr's a better quarterback. So, and his last one didn't go too well. Obviously, getting rid of Jay Cutler in Denver originally, trading him to the Bears. If Jimmy gets injured again, which happens, it might actually, it happens all the time. It may actually save Josh McDaniels' job because, he's got an excuse. But to be honest with you, Jimmy, if he stays healthy, he has to ball out. Otherwise, this season would be very bad because the offense is good, but the defense is goddamn awful. I'm sorry, Raiders fans, but it is. You've not really improved from what you were last year, and last year you were dreadful. And so, in my opinion, I think this is a 4-13 team, which is a shame because obviously they invested a lot into Devontae Adams, and I sort of feel sorry for him being involved in this team really. And you've lost Darren Waller as well, and I like Michael Mayer, but he's not going to offer what Darren Waller did straight away. In third place, I've got the Chargers. They're at 9-8. They're a victim of a hard division, really, because they're a really good team. They've got Justin Herbert, who's very, very good. but I think Kansas City and Denver are probably better, and the Chargers have got a really hard schedule as well. Look, I think my other concern is that what Brandon Staley put out on defense last year, aside from a couple of games like the Miami game, was awful. J.C. Jackson, their big acquisition, got burned before he got hurt all the time, and the defense has to be better, but I'm not sure it will be. The offense, on the other hand, I think will be better with Kellen Moore at OC, because Joe Lombardi's offense last year was awful. But I don't trust this quarterback head coach combination with games on the line, and that's my thing with Justin Herbert. He's an immensely talented quarterback, but my one knock on him is the fact that I've not seen him take games over like I've seen Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes do. It feels like hundreds of times. Herbert needed last year in the playoffs to beat Jacksonville was one touchdown in a half of football, and they could not produce that. Surely at some point you take over the offense and it's what Trevor Lawrence did. Trevor Lawrence threw 3 interceptions on back-to-back drives and brought a team back from 27-0 to winning a playoff game. That's what Justin Herbert should be able to do, and he's not done it. That is my only gripe. Herbert is a perfect regular season quarterback, but when it comes down to the line, he's not shown me what it is so far. He's not shown me he has that dog in him so far, which Russell Wilson has done previously, and I'm hoping he will do this year, which is why I got the Broncos just ahead of them at 9-8. I'm a huge Russell Wilson fan, and I'm a huge Sean Payton fan, and I think Denver will be good, but ultimately just miss out on the playoffs as well, like I said with the Chargers, just because they're in a hugely tough AFC. Like last year, training camp hasn't gone great for Denver with injuries either. To be honest with you, they've already lost Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy's out for week 1 as well, I think. So it's just look, the defense can only bail you out so much, and if one more skilled player goes, whether it's Javonte Williams or Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy, then this team falters. Yeah. But I got fingers crossed that it's not going to happen, because like I said, I'm a huge Russell Wilson fan, and he's done it before. Peyton's done it before. They both won Super Bowls, albeit with different teams. The defense is very good, and hopefully the O-line that they've spent money on bringing in Mike McGlinchey and Ben Powers from Baltimore and San Francisco really does protect Russell Wilson, because he got banged up last year behind the offensive line. But no, look, Denver for me 9-8, just missed out on the playoffs. Leaving Kansas City at 12-5, which I'm sure you've got the Chiefs the division as well. Last year many didn't, but they've got a difficult schedule this year, so this is why I've got them winning less games than you think they probably could do. But look, the Super Bowl winners, they proved everybody won last year and showed just how good of a combination Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid is. But they're going to win the division comfortably, I think. They also tend to use the regular season to test things out and then hit their peak in the playoffs every single year, really. And their dominance over the division continues, like with Buffalo. But the Kansas City, that's probably the first thing when you do these predictions. That's probably the first thing you put right at the top. Kansas City AFC West winners, until somebody else comes and claims it, which they could happen. Or who Patrick Mahomes gets injured, which obviously he has taken quite a few hits over the last year or so. It could happen. But I don't think it will, because he'll play on all the injuries, like what we saw last year, and I think the quarterback show actually does document that quite well, of how bad the injury was. Because when you're watching the game, you don't realise it, and then you watch these behind the scenes documentaries, you're like, okay, that was because it was a really bad stretch in the playoffs with injuries and everything. But no, for me, look, the Chiefs are the class of the AFC, right? And certainly in the AFC West, and I'm assuming you got them as your number one. But let's go with you. Just go through your predictions.
I'll say I have Raiders in 4th as well, but I have them at 7-10. Because we were talking about the Patriots earlier, and we were saying how we thought they'd be terrible, and they surprised and got couple more wins. We thought there is a couple of them every single season, and I think Jimmy G at Raiders is not. I don't rate Jimmy G at all. Like he's got a very low ceiling in my eyes, but I think he can milk this offense and get some wins against some poorer teams. Their schedule is tricky. I'm not gonna lie, it's not the best, but there's no rhyme or reason to it really. I fancy them to surprise a couple people. You got a talented offense. The defense, as you said, terrible. But if they can get a couple players who surprise everyone, have a breakthrough year, You know, they have a couple players who can add a game-changing thing every now and then. I think they can get the 2 or 3 more wins than you predicted, and I think they won't get playoffs. I'm being realistic here, they will not get playoffs. But I think this will not be as negative of a year as Raiders fans are kind of scared of. Yeah, I think. And then I've got Broncos 8 and 9 in third, and then I've got Chargers 9 and 8 in second. So we kind of swapped them two. And I've got Broncos 8 and 9 because Sean Payton, great coach, can work his magic. Russell Wilson, I'm a Seahawks fan. I know what he can do. He's a great player. I'm not putting there because I'm bitter about Russell still. It's Sean Payton's first year. We can't forget about how bad they were last year. They were awful. I know he can turn him around quick. I know he's a great coach, but I think it is going to take some time to settle in. And I think they have a very thin squad. And if you see some injuries, like you said, and more injuries in skill positions, they're going to struggle. It doesn't matter how good your coaching is. If you don't have the players, you're going to struggle. And I think 8 and 9 is realistic. I think they probably go over it if everyone stays healthy. But I don't predict that to happen. I think they're going to have a couple problems with certain positions and lack of depth. I think they struggle against division teams. Sometimes I've got them 3 and 3 in the division. So I think they will be good in a couple of years. They'll be very good in a couple of years. But this year is just settling into Sean Payton and settling into Russell getting back to how he was at Seattle. And it's sort of putting the doubters astray, but not away sort of thing. And they'll still be there. You kind of silence them a bit, but it will be near about a positive record, but I don't think it will be. And then I've got Chargers second because you've been saying about Herbert and how you don't think he's got that thing that makes him an elite quarterback. I think this is the year where we see it. I think
I want to see it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I want to see Justin Herbert do that. Like,
yeah.
Everyone I talk to thinks I don't want to see it. Yes, that's just a lie. I want to see him do that. I just haven't seen it yet. The only QBs that do. The problem is that there are it's not like it used to be, right? There are QBs that are so good that they literally can bring their team back to a game, back into a game that they weren't in, or they can add 3, 4, 5 wins to a team schedule straight away, like Mahomes did last year, like Joe Burrow did the first year that Cincinnati were competing. He took them to a Super Bowl. Like we've seen, like Josh Allen did when Josh Allen's accuracy improved and when he worked with Jordan Palmer and became a better thrower, he added so much value to that offense. But I don't see Herbert add value to a level that those guys do. But I think he can. That's my thing.
That's what I'm predicting for this year. I'm predicting that it clicks.
That's my thing. It's like I want to see it. Because he's literally I say it every time, he's the perfect model quarterback. The size, the athleticism, the arm, just become elite.
Yeah, it's we're all kind of just waiting on it and seeing if it can happen, and I think this year it does. And look, you got a good defense, a great defense, you got a good offense. It's just waiting for that little punch, that little step up, and I think it happens this year. I've got them 9 and 8. I think that's probably. If Herbert does make that jump, I think they could get more. But I think it's realistic, 9 and 8. I've got 2 and 4 against the division. I think they'll struggle a bit in division games. I think that's what will let them down. But I'm not betting against them because I believe they can do it, and I believe they have all the talent in the world to do it. And of course, I have Chiefs at number 1, and I have them going 14 and 3 because it seems like a lot. Because you mentioned how they always prove people wrong and how people thought they're going to be bad. I am fed up of underselling the Chiefs. I'm fed up of every year I say they're going to get worse and they don't. So this year, I'm going to say they're going to be amazing because we all know they can be amazing. So I'm going to say they're going to be amazing from the off, right? And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But it's sort of it's stupid. They're under Andy Reid with Mahomes, Kelsey, and all their key talent. They're insane. Mahomes is the best player in the league. That's undoubted. He can change a game like that. He can do things that no other quarterback in this league can do, and that's the most important position in this league. And I just see him carrying on how they've been. They've off the back of a Super Bowl win. I don't see him slowing down at all until the postseason. But I think they might struggle later on in the postseason. I think they've had too many years of getting so far, and I think it might start catching up.
Well, they've got teams who've shown they can beat him in the postseason in the past. So I'm assuming you've got the same thing again.
Yeah, but
we'll get into the playoffs later. But
yeah, because I didn't know whether to save that or not. But
yeah.
I think they 5-1 versus division. I think they if they play how we know they can play, and if they play like the Chiefs, they could easily breeze this division. And it is a tough division, so it feels weird saying that, but you can't bet against them. They are so good, and they have been so good for the last 2-3 years. It's the same as Bills. They know what they're doing. They know what they have to do to get to the places they want to be, and they will do it unless injuries or like something big happens. I don't see them slowing down.
No, and you cannot pick against Kansas City. It's so difficult to do that because they will prove you wrong. Because
they've been stung by that too many times.
last year I had the Broncos winning the division. Because I believed everything about the Broncos. I was like, I didn't really think about Nathaniel Hackett, and I've seen in Hard Knocks now that it was never going to work. Nathaniel Hackett's personality of Russell Wilson was never going to work.
It's chalk and cheese. Chalk and cheese.
So I've seen it now, but the Chiefs, their dominance is it's great to see, and also it's in a different way to the Patriots, isn't it? And that's the thing as well. It's in a different way. They're a lot more of a fun team to root for.
It's more exciting.
It's more exciting, and I'd probably compare it to the Warriors, you'd say, in basketball, rather than
100%. Yeah,
rather than the Patriots. They're very entertaining. They do things differently to other teams, and that's what you get in the Chiefs, and is why they're so good. Moving on to a division that's not as high powered as the other three in the AFC. It's the AFC South, where let's go with you. Talk me through the division. Talk me through how you see it going, because it'll be close to the bottom. I think. Let's just say that
it's close to the bottom. I think mainly because there is 2 rookie starter quarterbacks here, and no one knows really who's going to pan out better. I think people have a general consensus who they think is going to start better, and I believe everyone thinks it's going to be CJ Stroud, and I the same. So I think the Colts will finish 4th with a 4-12 record. I think they struggle, to be honest. This whole Jonathan Taylor things and stuff like that, I don't think he moves on. I think he stays because they're asking for.
He's not going to play though, mate. He's not going to play.
He's not going to play. I think later on in the season,
so they're bad then, but they won't trade him away. But they're still a bad team.
I think they don't find a suitable trade, and later on in the season, he might just go, all right, I'll sign like a 1 year thing. I think if he plays for anyone,
you still got him 4th. So
I've still gone 4th. I've got him going 4-12. They're gonna struggle. They don't have. I'm not hot on Anthony Richardson. Put this away. Draft day, I was looking for the Seahawks to draft him. Saw his pro day. I saw his name in the lights. I was like, this man's amazing. And then I saw the bigger picture of the 30% pass accuracy and stuff like that, and I'm thinking he's gonna struggle. He's gonna struggle big time. He hasn't got weapons. He's got Michael Pittman, number 1 receiver. He's a good receiver. He's not elite.
Number 1, no. Yeah,
he's not a number 1. Not an elite wide receiver. He's gonna struggle. He's been dropped into the deep end here, and I think he's gonna struggle. I think he's gonna find it hard to settle in, and I think the 4-12 reflects that. I think he'll have streaks of showing greatness. That's what we saw with the Florida Gators last year. It seemed like one game he was the best player in college football. Next game is like he'd never played football before. So I think we're going to see streaks of that today, but I think it's going to be way more harsh. I think it's going to be games where people are calling him a bust, and there's going to be games where like we can trust this man. He's going to be the franchise quarterback, and I think it's going to be up and down, but it's not going to be a happy ending. So I've got 4-12-1 I put because I hadn't got any ties, so I just thought I'd try it. And then in 3rd, I've got the Houston Texans because I believe CJ Stroud to be better, and they've also got what's 3rd pick? I'm blank on his name.
What do you mean?
Will Anderson.
Yeah, Will Anderson.
Is Will Anderson? Okay.
Yeah.
I keep getting mixed up.
I was lost then. They drafted CJ Stroud number 2 and Will Anderson number 3.
I think they've made good moves. They did have to sacrifice quite a lot of their draft next year to make them moves. They're not a complete team yet. D'Amico Ryans, I believe, is going to be a great head coach. It's a new quarterback. It's a whole new system. It's a new coach. It's going to take time to settle. And I think 6-11, it's a positive record for them. I mean, it's all new. It's not a bad record.
Better than the last few years. Way better than the last few years.
It's positive. I think their fans will see that as an absolute win. But it's just, I don't see them competing with their schedule's not the hardest, but I don't see them competing with the lion's share of people. And I think Will Anderson's going to have a great year. I've seen him in training camp and I've seen him in preseason. I think he looks like a player. And CJ Stroud as well. It looks like they've drafted well. But you got two big players on your team being rookies. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. Yeah. And then in second, I've got the Titans. And I've got them going 8-8. And another one looks like...
So do you mean 8-1? So I guess you've got the tie with the Colts.
Oh, yeah. 8-1, sorry. Forgot about that one. I was like doing my list and I like captioning, like guessing who was going to win which scheduled games and stuff like that. And I at the end of 8-8, and I kind of looked over it and I couldn't really argue my thought process. They don't have anything which makes you go, oh, wow, yeah, they're going to be great, but they're stable. They got Derrick Henry. If he can stay fit, it's Derrick Henry. You can't really argue against Derrick Henry. They got talent. They haven't got massive talent. They just got talent, and they're in a weak division, and I think they'll win a lot of division matchups. And I think for the lion's share of it, 8-8. I think they missed playoffs on 8-8, but 8-1. I'm just going to say 8-8 because it's easier. But I think they missed playoffs. But to be honest, it's getting to the stage where they need to decide whether they're going to rebuild this squad or complete rebuild, or they've got a very aging squad, and it'd be interesting to see how D-Hop gets on there and stuff like that. So we'll see. I think they'll be good. They'll be decent. Not very exciting to watch by any means, but I think they'll get results. And I think their fans will take an 8-8 record, unless they want the full rebuild and they might go into full tank mode. But we'll see. We'll see. And at the top of the division, I've got the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I've got them going 11-6, which seems big. But if you look at their schedule, it is a very, I'm not going to say easy, but it's not the worst schedule at all. Like it's a very simple schedule. And my MVP vote for this season was kind of a hot take. I think Trevor Lawrence could genuinely make an MVP run this year. I think he's going to be unbelievable. We saw at Clemson how good he was, how he could command the defense. We saw it in the playoffs last year. 3 picks in 3 consecutive drives and came back to win the game. He's a leader. He can lead this team. I like Calvin Ridley, the acquisition of Calvin Ridley. I think that's great. Obviously, another dimension. They got talent, both sides of the ball. They got not an easy schedule, but got a simple schedule. I think they make it to the playoffs comfortably, and then we can see what they're truly made of. But for the regular season, I don't think they struggle at all. I think it's a year where they know they're good, they know what they can do, and it's time to put that into motion.
Yeah, I can. Well, I've got the exact same ranking as you actually, so I'll sort of jump in there. In fourth, I've got the Colts at 6-11. So they'll get some wins because they've got a very easy schedule, but especially in the division as well, as you mentioned. But the team isn't really great. You mentioned it there. Anthony Richardson is going to be very entertaining this year because he's been very entertaining in the preseason. He was very entertaining at Florida too, but he's very raw as a passer. We saw that in the game against Philly where in preseason where he had awesome plays, but when you look at the box score, he went 6-17.
Yeah,
like
you remember all the good bits, and then you look at the stats, and you're like, oh.
and ultimately, some of his errors will catch him out, and we'll see sort of maybe it's very well documented that Peyton Manning struggled in his first year with the Colts. I think he's still got the record for the most interceptions as a rookie. That may change this year. I don't think it will be just because I don't think they'll throw the ball that much, but I think this year won't sum up Anthony Richardson. It's about him growing and learning, and he's got a perfect man with him in Shane Steichen as well, who's just overseeing the transition that Jalen Hurts just made, which is why, obviously, one, why he got the job, and two, why they drafted Anthony Richardson, because if he can become, a QB to that level, then he will be electric. And
it's Project Jalen Hurts. Yeah, exactly. It's Project Jalen Hurts.
It's the start of a rebuild for the Colts. Better days are ahead for this team. I fully believe that.
Oh, 100%,
but this year, I don't think they'll be great, and I don't think Jonathan Taylor will play this year either, just because he's fallen out of Jim Irsay, and I don't think he'll get traded. There's that whole uncertainty that do there as well. So
it's a mess.
Just taking him out of the team and the roster isn't great, but they will win games because they're in the worst division of football and they've got the probably easiest schedule in the league as well, other than the South, the NFC South really. On to the third place team, I've got the same as you. I've got the Houston Texans, but I've got them going 8-9 rather than your 6-11. I'm really looking forward to seeing this team. Just like I said last podcast, they are my surprise team this year. I think they're going to be way better than many people think they are. They've basically got they've drafted how I would draft if I was a GM. By if you're starting a rebuild from scratch, you go and get a quarterback, you go and get a corner, you go and get an edge rusher. The only thing, and you've got an offensive line there in Laramie Tunsil and Tyson Howard, and you've brought in some offensive linemen over the summer as well. You've got a good offensive line, right? That's 4 of the 5 things you need to be a very successful team in this league. The fifth thing is receiver. Once this team gets a receiver, they're going to be scary, I think. Should CJ Stroud step into the league and play like I think he will be, because he's going into the San Francisco scheme, which makes any QB, especially one with good accuracy, look really good. And that's the thing, really. Bobby Slowick's offense with this, he's come over from the San Francisco, like D'Amico Ryans as a head coach. This staff looks really good. Like I said, they spent key assets at the good positions too. They're just a receiver away from being very good, and I think next year we'll see. Hopefully, them go out and get someone. Maybe make a trade for Mike Evans, or make pay him free agency because he's going to be one of the top free agents this year. But yeah, I think Houston will be very good next year. This year, I think they're going to go 8-9, as I think the Titans are. But the Titans just pipped into second place with a better in-division record. I think you mentioned it earlier. You're not sure whether they're rebuilding or what. I think this is the start of a rebuild. Vrabel's a great coach, and they'll get some wins this year because the defense is great. And they sort of crumbled towards the end of the last season, which is very uncharacteristic for the Titans. I don't really know what happened there, but this year I think it's a bit of a testing year. This is the end of Tannehill. You'll see multiple QBs in the lineup this season for sure. Yeah.
How do you think Will Levis is going to fare?
I don't think he plays. I think Malik Willis, by the looks of it, Malik Willis plays a lot this year. Because he was the better QB in camp. Will Levis might play towards the end of last year, but I think it's just keeping him off the field and seeing what you have with Malik Willis and then going for Will Levis, I think, really. But you've got a proper QB battle behind Tannehill, I think.
Yeah, no,
it's just whether the two of them, and Tannehill was a bit of a punt. You've made a punt with two other. You made with two other quarterbacks as well. In fact, you spent, I think it was a 4th round pick this month on Tannehill, getting on a trade from the Dolphins. And admittedly, look, he had a good offensive line at the time. It's not good now. And Derek Henry, they managed to get themselves to a AFC Championship game. But it was never enough because they didn't have the quarterback. I don't think these guys are the quarterback either. But could they be? Yes. We'll see. And that's what they want. I think this season is a testing year. You're going to see a lot of in and out of the quarterback position for Tennessee, and I think you'll probably see them both because they're in a better situation than they were bringing in Josh Dobbs at the end of last year and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
I think, and also you've got 2 receivers now in DeAndre Hopkins and Treylon Burks, in the second year as well. So I think they're going to be okay. Be a lot of in and outs. You might see Derek Henry goes and out because his name's been rumored as a trade candidate.
Yeah.
Or and his contract run out soon as well, so there is that to consider too. But they're the Titans; they're going to win games, especially in this division. But I just can't see them challenging the Jags, who have got a 10-7, because I feel like this is really the start of something for Jacksonville. And look, I've got them losing a few more games than I thought I would do, just because they've got quite a difficult schedule compared to the rest of the division. But it's the start of something for the team. I love the Peterson and Lawrence combination, and that adds 3, 4, 5 wins to this team because it's so good, and it's one of the best combos in the league, let alone the AFC or division. I'm just hopeful the defense takes another step like it did last year, and obviously they got the trio receiver in Karen Ridley, Christian Kirk, and Zay Jones, which are awesome. But the reason why I've got them losing games is because the offensive line does worry me a little bit, because you've lost Jawan Taylor to the Chiefs. And you've got Anton Harrison at tackle, who you drafted, but my problem is their right tackle, Cam Robinson is suspended for the first 4 games, so it might be a little bit of a tough start to the year. But the Jags will get in a groove like they did at the end of last year, and I think they will win division pretty comfortably. And they're probably a year away from being a true AFC contender. They probably need another piece on defense. Maybe Trevon Walker making this next step up because he wasn't great last year. The number 1 overall pick. But they're going to get another playoff berth. Could win another playoff game too. But this is another step in the right direction for the Jags. On to the NFC now. God, we've been talking about the AFC for an hour, mate. This is a long podcast, but we'll try a bit quicker with the NFC. It's because the AFC is so good. That's the thing.
The AFC compared to the NFC again this year is crazy in terms of golfing talent.
Yeah.
I think we see. Well, I won't spoil me playoff predictions, but I think the theme continues.
Yeah. On to the NFC now. I've got the Chicago Bears in 4th at 7-10. I love Justin Fields, but the team is still a few pieces away, in my opinion, to be honest with you. They still need a pass rusher. Like, it's just not there. And probably another cornerback to pair with Jalen Johnson, despite spending the money on defense that they did at linebacker. But I like them. They're going to run the ball like hell, and they're going to be very entertaining for that reason, and they'll be better than last year because of that too. Adding a few more wins to 7-10, and Justin Fields is going to have a good year, but the team on itself isn't as talented as the rest of the division, let alone the rest of the NFC. So I've got them at 4 for 7-10. I've got Green Bay also at 7-10 because Jordan Love's going into an offense that's good, it's familiar. He's been in it before, but also is a quite handy QB-friendly offense. So I wouldn't be shocked. I'll be shocked if he's not solid, but I just don't see anything that wows me either with Jordan Love, and that's the thing, really. I like the defense. I like the run game too, the Packers, and I'm expecting them to run the ball a lot too to help their young quarterback out. But the Lions and the Vikings are just better teams in my opinion, and I can't.
Yeah,
I can't
really argue against that. Yeah.
No. I got the Lions at 9-8, which is probably a lesser record than many people think they will have. But look, I'm holding off a little bit, but I still really do think they'll get in the playoffs. It's better, and they will get into the postseason, and they could even win the division because the Vikings aren't very far away from this 9-8 record either. But I have worries about the defense because they let up a lot of points last year, and they spent money on it, but I just need to see it first, and that's the thing, really. And look, the Chiefs are a great test for that on the opening night as well.
Hellfire.
Yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, they got the Lions at 9-8, and I've got the Vikings winning the division at 10-7. Just about, literally this close. They're going to be better than last year, but they'll have a worse record than last year because they won so many one-score games. I think it was
crazy
11-0 in one-score games, and that's just not sustainable, and it won't happen again. Still take a little bit of a dip in that case. It's a big year for Kirk Cousins. He's going into free agency next season, so he's playing for a big contract. Whether he stays at the Vikings or not is a different question because the Rams are rumored to be going after him. The Niners are too. That he said obviously he worked with both Shanahan and McVay in Washington before. And it's the offense is great. The defense is going to be better too with Brian Flores coming in as defensive coordinator because it was awful last year, and Flores will have them playing well. We saw that even with the Dolphins that were clearly tanking in 2019. That defense still won team games down the stretch, and ultimately cost them probably Joe Burrow because they beat the Bengals in Cincinnati at the end of the season when both teams were tanking, and that really did cost them Joe Burrow, I'd probably say at the time. But the Flores has a good defense. A good scheme, and I think the Vikings need that because they've been lackluster on defense for a while now, and they've added Jordan Allison as well. They got to KJ Osborne and Justin Jefferson, the best receiver in the league, who I think could go for 2,000 yards this year. It's a great team, and I think they're going to win the division, and I'm hoping they can actually win a playoff game as well, because that's the thing with the Vikings. They're like the Chargers; they just get there and just collapse. So they've got so much promise. I want them to see them do it, and I think, although the record will be less, I think there will be a better team this year, and I think they will be more difficult to beat this year as well. Especially in prime time. I want to see Kirk win a prime time game. But he did it in Thanksgiving, but I was against the Patriots, so it's not really that much of a test.
Yeah, it's got a little asterisk.
But yeah, that's how I see the North going. How do you see the North going, mate?
See, I have Packers finishing fourth with a 4-13 record.
Oh, tell you what, Ollie Darcy is not going to be happy.
He's not going to be happy with me at all.
He's already got beef with Sean from his him saying they could get the number 1 overall pick in the preview podcast. Now we're predicting, and
I agree with Sean. I think
wow.
it's a regression year for Packers in my eyes. Look, they're going to struggle. There is some highlights, of course. There's good highlights, but they've had a good camp, but this divorce from Rodgers is gonna sting. They had him for so many years, and he was elite for so many years. And you're looking at Jordan Love now; he's been groomed for the position. We've seen that not go so well many, many times, and I think this is going to be another case where it just doesn't clock in. I mean, I have them at 4 wins because it is purely because they have a tough division, and I'm not hot on Jordan Love. I think he struggles. I think what they're used to, he cannot replicate, and I think slowly but surely it goes from a bad start to worse, and then it kind of snowballs and snowballs on until they're looking at a complete failure, and they got to rebuild a little bit. But it's not the be all or end all. I just think it's going to be a very much an off year, and it's going to be a tough year. And I hope Ollie Darcy isn't listening because he won't be happy with me. But I'm just not sure. I haven't gone 0-6 versus the division as well. I think I'm looking at the rest of their
What?
divisions.
Owens? That never happens, man. You normally get one division. Wow.
I had to go for a couple hot takes. I had to go for a couple. I'm sorry. I wanted to spice it up a bit. But yeah, no, I'm just not hot on Love at all. I've got the Bears in third on a 9-8 record. I mean, I think Justin Fields carries on. I don't think he regresses. I think he just carries on slowly, getting better and better. And I think they're a good team. They got talents on both sides of the ball. They got an okay schedule. And I think a 9-8 record is probably very realistic for them because I don't really know what they need to make the next step, but I don't think they've done it.
That's the thing. I feel like they need a pass rusher. That's what they need.
Yeah,
because they've got him as number one receiver now in DJ Moore. Not Hurts. Fields has got his legs, and that's his superpower. We saw he took over games last year.
100%,
with his legs. They run the ball well, but it's just they just need sacks. Ultimately, they need sacks. They've got a linebacker. They've got good DBs now. They just need sacks. And I think that's what keeps them from the rest of the division. But
yeah, I've got the Vikings in third on 10-7, but I've also got the Lions in first on 10-7. But I have the Vikings in third, losing top spot 3 divisional matchups because they had so many replacements this offseason. They have so many. You think of the likes of Adam Thielen gone, Harrison Smith gone, loads of key players gone. They had 13 wins last year. I think everyone's in agreement that that's generous. They had a great schedule last year. They got Brian Flores in. Look, he's a good coach for an under-talented defense. I think he can get the most out of this. But it's just so many replacements. I think it's going to be a sort of adjustment period. It is a subpar defense. Brian Flores could work his magic, but you're just looking at a lot of replacements, and I'm not sure whether they've done the best replacement. I'm a big fan of Jordan Addison. They've drafted well. They paid TJ Hawkinson. I think he deserves to get paid. Probably not as much as he got, but he deserves to get paid, and he's good for them. Their offense will be good. It's just that defensive question mark, and I think that's why I've got the Lions in top spot, because the Lions had a weird draft. I think the Lions had a good draft, but it was a weird draft. I think they reached John Jameer Gibbs, and I think Jack Campbell was sort of unexpected. But
they did what a lot of GMs believe you really shouldn't do, is they drafted a linebacker and a running back in the first round.
Exactly. They had a weird draft. But the hype around this team is real, and I'm buying into it. I'm buying into it. I think Dan Campbell's unreal head coach. He's
very good head coach.
He can squeeze blood out of a rock. He's a leader. He can lead this team. I think 10-7 realistic. The offensive line, among the best in the league. I think Jared Goff, if he can continue what he does, offensive line, you need a good offensive line to be the best. We've learned this. They got one of the best in the league. They got a good defensive line as well. I don't think they struggle this year. I think they make heavy improvements, and I think they win this division and go and get into the playoffs pretty comfortably. I think later on in the season, in the postseason, maybe that's when question marks start to arise. I don't think they're elite yet. I think they're on a good track to become elite. And I think in 2 or 3 years, we're looking at the likes of the Lions and going, yeah, they can truly compete here. But we'll see how these draft picks pay off. But I'm confident that they're a good team and they can do some things in this league this season.
Nice one, mate. And look, the Lions and the Vikings are most people's picks at the top of the division. Bears and the Packers could surprise, but we've pretty much got the same there, just with the top 2 switched around. On to the NFC East now, where you got it's like the South. It's probably a division split in the AFC South. It's like a division split in half. You've got the Giants and the Commanders, and then you've got probably the Cowboys and the Eagles, which are in many people's eyes Super Bowl contenders. I'll kick off. I'll say they've got the Giants at 6-11. which is a massive step back from what they were last year, making the playoffs, obviously, as a wildcard team. Look, Brian Dable's a great coach. He won Coach of the Year last year. We learned that last year by just, the transition that he helped Daniel Jones make, becoming a competent, pocket passer, and relying on his legs less, but also just standing there and being able to win a game in the NFC. I don't think he can do it in the AFC, which is the decision to pay him. I'm not entirely sure, but they did the right thing by giving him another year to do that, and it's what the Dolphins are doing with Tua Tagovailoa as well this year. They're going to pay him after the option probably. You decline the option, which you basically have an extra year to show us what you can do. And then, ultimately you got a contract that way. Look, they got a very tough schedule this year, which is why I've got them regressing, because they've got to play the AFC East, and that there is probably 3, if not 4 losses for the Giants. I'm sorry, but those teams are just supremely talented compared to your side, and they'll be you don't get me wrong. Brian Dable and Wink Martindale all haven't played tough against some of these teams, but ultimately, toughness doesn't win you games against the very best of the league, I don't think. Against teams like Miami, I think they could, but I don't think they could beat. I don't think they'll beat the Jets or the Bills. I don't think. But if Saquon Barkley gets hurt, then this team sucks, and that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
They giving Saquon his contract, albeit a 1-year deal, which is not what he wanted. Not what he wanted. Nah. But look, it just if they didn't have Saquon Barkley play football this year, then all their hard work will be undone, and that's the thing, really. And look, that's the thing. Saquon is the heartbeat of this team, so it just makes me wonder. It just makes me wonder why they are. I can see the Raiders and Josh Jacobs not want to pay him, but why they don't want to pay Saquon Barkley? It makes no sense to me. And I just, but the thing is that Saquon Barkley was a lot for running back, and that if you could find a middle ground, because that's the ideal thing. But look, if Saquon's had injury history in the past, and if he does get injured this year, then his team, which I think is possible because we've seen it before, that'll again be a bit of a downer for this team. So I got them going 6-11. Well coached, but the talent's just not there, even after adding the likes of Darren Waller and Jalen Hyatt on offense. The Commanders going 7-10. I'm a bit hot on them now. I've watched somehow in pre-season because they look really good, and they will run the ball well with Eric Bieniemy, obviously former running back, and I think this offense will be a lot better than it has been previously in Washington, and the D line's really good as well. I think they could look to move some of them on maybe at the trade deadline perhaps, but look, if they're having a good season, they won't do that. I can either see them having a sneaky good season, maybe reaching as a wildcard team, or being really bad. And I think 7-10 is a good, sort of middle ground for them. And I think it'll go one of the two ways. And I can see them it being the former there, just by what I've seen in the preseason. So I've got a little bit of hope for the Commanders. And obviously, look, their whole new ownership and everything's gonna be a massive boost from everyone. They're getting crowds at training camp and things now, and it's even from Dan Snyder, finally getting rid of him is going to be a great thing, great burden off their back this year for the Commanders. that may be helping up turning form too. I got the Cowboys at 9-8. Which you might think is a bit shocking because they've won 10 games and stuff recently, but they've won double-digit games, but just Mike McCarthy calling plays, I'm not entirely convinced on. Obviously, after losing Kellen Moore to the Chargers, Dan Quinn's defense is really good. Michael Parsons is probably one of the best players in the entire NFL, so I'm not worried about that. But it's more Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott, and a different offensive line this year. That obviously Zach Martin they finally came to agreement with, and if they didn't pay Zach Martin, then this team could in turmoil. But I just Dak Prescott. Look, there are eyes on Dak now because he led the league in interceptions last year. He's had a fair few injuries recently as well. He missed last year a few games at the start of last year of injury, came back and still led the league in interceptions. And obviously they brought in Trey Lance now, which has caused a little bit of stir as well. As a trade from the Niners, adding to Cooper Rush and in that quarterback room as well. It's a big year for Dak Prescott because he should have a better year because the eyes are on him, but really, come on, Dak, now. You've got one of the best rosters in the league. Now is the time to make something out of it. because, but beyond probably Philly and San Francisco, you are the third best team in the NFC. You should be looking to get to the NFC Championship game with this team, and if you can't do
100%.
that, then they might look to move on for you because the contract's coming up soon, and you win a lot of money. You set the league. I think you were up there as one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL before Mahomes blew the market crazy with his 10-year contract. You were right up there, Dak Prescott, and this is your time to shine, because otherwise your eyes are on you, mate. And look, Mike McCarthy could be fired after this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they make a QB change as well if it goes south. That's what I'm saying. And then look, number one in the NFC East, Philadelphia. No surprise, really. The best roster I've ever seen. It's so
mate,
good.
it's incredible.
Yeah, the schedule is very difficult this year, so I've got my 12-5. Losing a few games compared to last year because, like I said, they've got to play all the AFC East. They've got to play. I think they've got to play Kansas City as well. Have got to play Kansas City too. They've got a really tough schedule, so they will drop some games. But look, they're my favourites for the Super Bowl for a reason, because they replace all the players they've lost as a Super Bowl winning team through free agency with former draft picks and adding players, free agency and the team's high Roseman
is stacked.
He's had a couple really strong drafts, and he has built an absolute world of a team. And there's a foundation. They've got a great foundation as well. They're drafting players to come in as backups later down the line now. They have the freedom to do that. That's what they're doing with Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith and Nakobe. Not Nakobe. No, what's the other line? But was it Nakobe Dean? Yeah, Nakobe Dean as well as Quay Walker went for the Packers. Nakobe Dean as well. They've all been drafted as depth pieces. Cam Jurgens, who plays at guard this year, to replace Isaac Suamalo, who went to the Steelers. The team are just so stacked.
It's crazy.
It's like it's like the Chiefs. They're just hard to pick against because the talent they have, especially in the trenches as well, offensive line and defensive line. They built in the right places, and Jalen Hurts really elevated his team to become one of the best we've ever seen last year. And they were literally 3 points away from winning the Super Bowl. And I think they'll be up there again this year. And I look, they're an easy pick to win the division, I think, in the Eagles. How have you got it shaping up?
So I've also agreed that I've got Giants in fourth, but I've got them going 7-10. I don't think it will be as bad as you said. Wait, do you have 6-11?
6-11, yeah.
Yeah, so I have them 7-10. I think. Look, last season was a full success. Like, Dable runs a tight ship. We know this. I think the regression is going to be an issue. I think they're a little bit aging in certain parts, and regression could be an issue.
Yeah, they're not young. That's the thing as well. They're not young.
No,
People think they're a young team. No, last year they were one of the oldest teams in the league, and they're not the best in terms of cap space either. Like, it's not like they're one of those teams that they're breaking into playoffs. They could go and pay players, and they've paid extra allowance this year, so now they are really tight. That's the problem as well, is because the money is not really spent where it should be on that team.
Nah.
Dave Gettleman had a great. It turns out he actually had a great draft tally towards the end, which is mental. Obviously
crazy.
But the draft picks panned out under Brian Dable and they got paid. But now they don't have superstars. They got Saquon Barkley and that's it. They have no superstars. And Darren Waller is their new superstar. That's it, really, isn't it?
So from what I've seen from them in camp, they're saying is the old Darren Waller is back. They're saying he is going to be their guy and he's performing at high levels. That's why I drafted him so highly in our fantasy football draft. I'm willing to take the risk. If they're so confident, I'm willing to take the risk. But look, I think they'll play better than they did last season. I think overall we'll watch them and go, yeah, they're a better team. I don't think their record reflects that. I think it's going to be.
I see the same thing as well. I think they're a well-coached team. They'll be difficult to beat, but I just think the way the schedule works out, they're not going to make the playoffs.
And division. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they got glaring issue. DB's an issue. They got the first overall pick. The starting quarterback, that's fine. But they've also got their 6th pick. They're high on him, but I'm not sure about 2 rookie corners. It makes you a bit nervous. I don't know. I think they play better overall. They miss out on playoffs, and I think that we'll see how they fare next off season. But I don't see this team making playoffs. I see him improving, but we'll see how Daniel Jones copes. We'll see. And then I have Commanders in third on the same record, 7-10. The Commanders. It's a weird one because they seem to love Sam Howell. They absolutely love him this training camp. some of the stuff I'm seeing on Twitter is outrageous. I heard him get compared to like when Michael Jordan joined the Bulls. I'm like, this is outrageous. But I think he's going to be a good player. I think Ron Rivera knows it's boom or bust time for him.
He's on the hot seat. Yeah, he's
in a hot seat.
If this team doesn't get 8-9 wins, he's gone. And
I think he's gone.
Yeah, me and Charlie were saying on the pod, and when he came on as well, we were saying that maybe Eric Bieniemy is the guy they're sort of grooming to become a head coach, because he's been in interviews before. He's not really interviewed well, so he's obviously not moved on to become a head coach. And the one gripe against him as well was he doesn't call plays in the Chiefs' offense. Well, now he's calling plays for a team. Now you can see how his offense plays calling skills go. And if it goes well, then he'll get an interview for sure. And I think the ownership might just stick with no name in that organization as they move to create bigger and better things for the Washington team, because I don't think they're going to be called the Commanders, to be fair, in the future. I think they're probably going to change the name because the name's rubbish. So
it's terrible.
Whatever the Washington team future holds, I think Eric Bieniemy will be there for a while, and this offense is exciting. I think
it's exciting.
You got Scary Terry, who's always had a 1,000-yard season. Him and Brandon Cooks are the two most underrated receivers in this league.
Tyler Lockett as well.
I love Tyler Lockett. So I rate him highly, but I see what you mean. But yeah, the both of them are just actually both of them in the NFC East now. Obviously with Brandon Cooks and the Cowboys.
Yep.
Both of them are just incredibly consistent, and you got you've got Curtis Samuel in there. And Jahan Dotson as well, who I forgot that's the person I was talking about. You've got a nice young receiving core there now, all with different skill sets. Obviously, Curtis Samuel's a speed guy. Jahan Dotson is a more of an all-rounder, and obviously Terry McLaurin's a great deep threat. You've and among many other things, you've got an impressive receiving core there. The offensive line, we'll see how that holds up. That's a bit of an issue, but the running game is going to be good. And
they've got stacked defense as well.
Yeah,
they've got stacked defense.
It's either they're rubbish or they surprise. I think that's both what we've got here. Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I've gone a bit more surprised, but also a bit straight down the middle. I think 7-10 is fair. I think that's what they're expected. To be honest, I think that's a safe expectation for them, and I think it's gonna be in my predictions Ron Rivera's last year, and I think we'll see if they move on with thingy, but I think that'll be good for the future. It'll just be one of them years where they look back on and go, oh yeah, it's the start of something, sort of thing.
Well, they're going to have a fan base that supports them this year, proper hard as well, and they're a nice story to follow this year. And when you watch them on prime time, you're going to actually want to watch them this year rather than rooting against them and all that kind of thing.
That new ownership deal felt like the end of a Disney film. It was watching all the videos and the reactions. It was crazy. But yeah, I've also got Dallas Cowboys in second. Look, Cowboys, it'll be a rollercoaster year. It always is with Dallas. It is never simple with Dallas. They have got undoubtedly one of the best defenses in the league. They got incredible depth in defense, especially. I loved their move for Stephen Gilmore. I think that's great. Your issue is Dak. Your issue is Dak. It's been Dak for years. I think Jerry Jones has sent a message getting Trey Lance like, look, it's time. If you got to start performing, it's time. I think he does perform. That's why I've got him going 11-6. I think he takes this Trey Lance thing seriously. I still think he throws a lot of picks. I still think he's not the perfect quarterback, but I think he produces at a higher level than he has done the last couple of years. And I think they'll get into playoffs. 5th seed, I've got them in pretty comfortably. 11-6, 3-3 in division. I think they're not the Eagles. They will never. Well, they'll never be the Eagles, but they can't compete with the Eagles this year. But they'll make playoffs and they'll make Jerry Jones happy. That's the main thing. And then I've got the Eagles number 1. Look, everything you said. This is the greatest team I've seen for sure. I don't know how they've managed to sneak Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith from the draft as well. It is crazy. Yeah. I mean, Jalen Hurts got paid big.
Also, they're winners as well. They've won.
They are winners.
They've won the two of them won back-to-back national championships. They're going into a team that is supposed to be Super Bowl favourites. They are winners.
It's crazy. I don't know how. It doesn't make sense. Like it's annoying, but it's pretty cool. I don't mind Philadelphia, so I quite like it. But Jalen Hurts got paid, obviously. Will that hang over his head a bit? We don't know, but for everything I've seen, he's an elite quarterback. He will play like an elite quarterback. They will. I've got him going 13-4. I've got him having a great year. I think they'll, like you said, they'll lose to a couple tough matchups and stuff like that. There's no worries. They'll be in the playoffs. No worries about that. They'll be in the later rounds of the playoffs, I believe. And they got so close last year. They will carry on. I think that getting so close but so far is that bittersweet point in which kind of propels you to go on and get it.
They're like the Rams, isn't it? Like the Rams stunk the bed in that Super Bowl against the Patriots, and then they came back and obviously they won it 2 years later against the Bengals.
I think it's similar, yeah. It's that bittersweetness, and you're like, it's so close, but yet so far, and I think it's going to propel them on. I think this is going to be a year where we watch the Eagles and we remember them as one of them teams, like the 06 Ravens and the 2014 Seahawks and stuff like that, where you look back and you go, what a team. Yeah.
They're so talented. They're just such a, like I said, it's the best roster I've ever seen. Hands down.
Oh, unreal. Crazy.
Yeah, and also as well, if Jalen Hurts goes down, you've got Marcus Mariota. You can come in and step in and play a few games.
I forgot they got Mariota.
That's an upgrade as a backup. So there's that too. So look, if you're in a position where you've pretty much won the division, you have to sit down Hurts just so you get south to the playoffs. You can do that with Mariota.
Yep, 100%. He's stable. Yeah, he's stable. So I've completely forgot they went out and got him. Well, free agency, whatever it may be, but. They have made good move after good move after good move, and it's just they're on some sort of streak, and it's going to pay off sometime. I think this might be the year.
On to a division that you're very familiar with, the NFC West, where it's another one that's split in half, this time more drastically. We'll start at fourth place. For me, I've gone for the Arizona Cardinals at 2-15, because this is the worst roster I've ever seen. We don't even know who's starting at quarterback. Jonathan Gannon, the new head coach, is holding that away from us. They cut Colt McCoy, who obviously was drafted very highly, one of the best college quarterbacks as well in memory, a long time ago. It feels like now he's 38 years old, which is mental. But
really,
yeah. So yeah, he got cut. Which I thought was confusing because it looked like from the end of last year that he was going to be the guy to hold the ship before Kyler Murray comes back. But whether Kyler Murray actually does come back this year is another question. But look, to start the year, it's going to be one of either fifth round rookie Clayton Tune or Josh Dobbs, who they've just traded for from the Browns. The wins, unfortunately, Cardinals fans, will be very hard to find, but I'm sure you know that because I think from the moment they traded down with the Texans last year to grab an extra first round pick, it was tank, right? It's a perfect opportunity to do so as well because Kyler Murray's hurt. If you can get a first round pick for Kyler Murray, maybe Washington, if somehow isn't quite perfect, he could be a guy that Kyler Murray could go to, for example. We saw Liam mention that in a podcast a couple of weeks ago. But the Cardinals are very much on reset mode. I've got them going 2-15. They're kind of lucky that the Rams win this division as well, which we'll get into now, because the two of them are some of the worst rosters you got in the NFL. But the Cardinals fans, it's not about this year; it's about the future. And if you can get Caleb Williams and you can trade away Kyler Murray, this team has a bright future that way. And I think that's what they're going for. Third, I've got the Rams at 3-14. Which is funny because I had them going at 14-3 last year, so as a total reset. But it just shows how much has changed in the last 12 months, especially in the Rams case. The defense is interesting because you've got Aaron Donald and then loads of undrafted players and loads of day 3 picks and people who you've never heard of starting for the rest of the defense. I think you've got a Kelly Weatherspoon as well, but not much talent at all. And on the offensive side of the ball, the team that will probably save this team and give them a couple wins is the Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp connection. Obviously, won them Super Bowl 2 years ago, and it will stop them from being as woeful as the Cardinals because they've had to hit reset because they went so aggressive to try and get a Super Bowl. Bringing in Jalen Ramsey, bringing in Matthew Stafford. That's multiple first round picks gone like that. They didn't have a first round pick from 2016 to 2024. This year will be the first year they have a first round pick. So, 8 drafts.
They got what they wanted, but I don't think they realised how bad it was going to be.
So they got their Super Bowl, but now the roster is in an absolute state. And look, Stafford has talked about retirement. Aaron Donald has talked about retirement too, and so is Sean McVay. So this team is you have three guys that you could really question whether they're in it or not, and that's another thing you need to notice with the Rams too. But again, like it's just about getting more talent on the roster now, really, of the Rams, and that will happen next year when they've got a first round pick. Because they're not going to make a trade this year because they haven't really got a shot of competing. But I'm interested to see what Sean McVay can do with this team because he's a great coach, like you say. And look, if he does do a good job with this team, it might make him think about staying around and building a second winning team with this Rams side because. It's no secret that he's been approached for TV jobs by the likes of Amazon before. He's been offered a lot of money as well. He's got a baby coming as well. Maybe maybe after his baby's born, we'll see if there's a change of heart or something like that. But it looks like it very much to be the case that the Rams are going to have an interesting 12 months, and I think they'll look better than they do now in 12 months' time. But whether they do well this year, I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately. Onto a winning record. Go from 3-14 to 10-7. We've got the Seattle Seahawks. Depending on how the Niners QB situation goes, they could win the division. I really do think that is the case. They're going to be very good this year, and they seem to have built one hell of a young secondary. They could do a pass rush, I think, and that's probably the one thing you're really looking for. Maybe because you've got your offensive line now because you hit your offensive line last year with Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas. You hit your DB with Tariq Woolen and Cody Bryant too. You've added Devon Witherspoon to that too. You brought back Bobby Wagner too. Mate,
I'll get onto it, but I'm ecstatic.
Yeah. You've drafted some more running backs. You've drafted Jackson Smith and Jacob Batu, adding another receiver to DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. This team is it just depends on how Gino looks really. Because if Gino looks like he did at the start of last year, then I think you've got a shot at winning division. But if he looked like he did at the end of last year, then it might be a 9-10 win season getting into playoffs. But if Gino can play like he did at the start of last year, then this team are going to be very good. And then I got the Niners at 13-4. Because they've got a very easy schedule actually at the top of the division because this roster is loaded. They've lost some players. They're not as good as Philly are this year, but they're still quite good, and they've got a great. They probably will get the 1 seed as well with their schedule. I'm interested to see how Brock Purdy looks like this year. Obviously, they've moved on from Trey Lance now, so he's got a clear run at the QB role. But if he doesn't perform, Sam Darnold's there waiting, and there's been a lot of talk about Sam Darnold this year. There's been a lot of Steve Young said he's really good, and Kyle Shanahan saying he's the next Steve Young potentially. And you've got it's a very interesting to see because that's the thing. Darnold's been on two teams, and both of them have been terribly run organisations and terribly coached teams. Right, he's now gone to a team that's very well run and is very well coached. Be interesting to see how Sam Darnold's fared because that Sam Darnold fares. Because he was highly drafted, obviously number 3 by the Jets, but many people thought he'd go number 1 overall. Baker Mayfield was not going into 2018 draft. Baker Mayfield not until the day of the draft. Baker Mayfield was not expected to go number 1 overall to the Browns. It was Sam Darnold the whole draft process,
100%
because he had the highest upside. He was the most talented QB there. But I should probably say that Josh Allen had the highest upside in that draft, but
no one knew it at the time.
Yeah, saw the arm, but. There was no telling that Josh Allen would be like he was, and same with Lamar as well, which is why Lamar fell. And that's even though he was a Heisman Trophy winner, that's why he fell, because the quarterback and ultimately Lamar getting drafted and having a great rookie year helped the NFL really become a rushing quarterback league. So it was a great draft in general. That draft was, but that's the thing. For me, Donald's got a chance of playing. But either way, I think whichever QB plays, I think they're going to win games because the defense is good. The only thing that worries me a little bit is the O-line because they've lost Mike McGlinchey, but the schedule's great. The team's awesome, and look, Kyle Shanahan will continue to play 7th round running backs and get 200 yards from them, whoever it will be.
It's criminal. Criminal.
And they're going to be always competitive until something changes. And I don't think that's going to change this year. So for me, I got the Niners winning the division at 13-4. How do you see the West going, mate?
I'm in agreement with the order the whole way through. I have Cardinals in 4th on a 2-15 record. I wrote in the guide. I said, look, Cardinal fans, this could be a terrible year, but it's exactly what you need. It's a full rebuild. It's right. You need a terrible year. You need just
new
to
coach,
restart.
new GM.
It's a full system restart. It is. Kyle is out for the season. You're in full tank mode. I reckon you get a couple wins along the way. Probably one against the Rams because that's gonna be some game. But,
Yeah. Whack it on prime time. Go on.
but I think it's not gonna be an enjoyable year. But it's exactly what you need. You restart. You got draft picks. You got everything you need to maybe 5 years. We'll see where you are. You might be back to the glory days, but for now, no. And I've got the LA Rams in third with a 5-12 record. 5 wins seems like a lot, but you got Aaron Donald, you got Cooper Kupp, you got Matthew Stafford. Rams fans, you are so lucky Aaron Donald didn't retire. If he weren't on that roster, I'd have you about 2 wins. He is one of the greatest defensive players I've ever seen, to be perfectly honest. And he has that ability to change games, and I think he will. And I think, as you said, the connection between Stafford and Kupp is still to this day too good. And I think it will catch teams, and I think they'll get 5 wins. It'll be an okay season. They know they need to rebuild. I think after this year is when you might have to panic if Aaron Donald does step away and if Sean McVay does step away, and like you said, and if Stafford moves on or whatever. It's an in-between year for the Rams. I think it's an in-between. It's like the start of a rebuild, but it's not fully in motion. It's sort of in between the old era and the new one. And I think it's going to represent that with a 5-12 record. I've got us in second. Sorry, I've got Seattle Seahawks in second with a 10-7 record as well. I thought I was being generous with 10-7. I agree with everything that you said. Our off-season moves are great. We had an absolutely amazing draft last season. Charles Cross, Abraham Lucas, great offensive line. Kenneth Walker III came out looking like a great running back. Tariq Woolen was the joint leader in the league in interceptions as a rookie. Incredible. Devin Witherspoon, I was at the time as soon as we drafted him, I weren't quite sure, but Sam persuaded me it was the right move. So I am a big fan. I've seen what he's done. There was a bit of the contract holdout, and apparently he is going to miss week 1 as well as Jamal Adams. So that's a bit of a hit, but we've got a good young defense. They're calling it the Legion of Boom V2, which I'm not sure we can say it's that good yet, but so many young talent. Bringing Bobby back in the back is huge. The pass rush, still an issue. It's not the worst. It's not by far the best, but it's a really easy team to get excited about. You think about the wide receiver trio we've got. It's probably, and I don't know if I'm being biased here, one of the best in the league in terms of wide receiver
As a
trio.
trio, it is, yeah. So them and the Bengals as a trio, yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what JSN does. I mean, he's come back from surgery. Apparently, he's healing in record time. He was in practice 2 days ago, and he only had the surgery like mid last week. So apparently, he might make it for week 1. But DK Metcalf, if he can have a high productive year, he always has high productive years, but there's always that feeling that he could do a little bit more. Tyler Lockett's dependable. Every Seattle fan loves Tyler Lockett. He's great. If Geno plays pre-Munich, Geno, because after we went to Munich and lost to the Buccaneers, it kind of dipped a little bit. Before, completely shocked, unbelievable. If he plays like pre-Munich Geno, I think we make it into playoffs comfortably. I think 10-7 reckon is pretty respectable for where our roster's at and how we've moved on. But I'm happy. As a Seahawks fan, I'm really, really excited. Going into year 2 with our great rookie class, it's looking like they're going to make big steps, and looking at our rookies we just drafted as well. I'm excited to see what Zach Charbonnet and Kenny McIntosh can do as well. It's really exciting time for Seattle fandom. It's just the San Francisco 49ers are ruining all our fun at the moment. I have them also at 13-4. I think they are boss. They are really good. You can't deny. You got Kyle Shanahan offense, and it's unbelievable. Brock Purdy is the question mark, and I agree with what you said about Sam Darnold. So I don't really have much more to add apart from the fact it is just trying to catch San Francisco. It's a tough job. We're just waiting on one slip up, sort of one injury, and hopefully smell blood and move in, try and beat him. I think if the cards fall our way, we can win the division easily, comfortably. Not easily. If they fall our way, we can win the division. But I think a more realistic view is a 6th seed, wild card a little bit, 10-7 record, and San Francisco to be the second best team in the NFC on a 13-4 record.
Yeah, and look, I completely agree with you there. That's we've got the same records. We'll finish up with the NFC South. which is a very close. From some teams, it'll be a very close battle going down to the very final week, I think. And I'll kick us off with my fourth place team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because I'm really surprised that Baker Mayfield won the starting job. I thought they'd go full rebuild. I thought they'd start Kyle Trask, which is a guy that obviously this organisation drafted to go behind Tom Brady in 2020. It's the very end of their Super Bowl team this year. They look to be moving on from Mike Evans, probably going to lose Levante David and a few more. And I think Chris Godwin and Shaq Barrett are the year after as well, so they could be trade candidates, for example.
Yeah.
But this team, they're going rebuild mode. It looks like it's probably going to be the last year of Todd Bowles as well. I love Baker Mayfield, right? But yeah. The offensive line worries me. Ryan Jensen's injured, and he's probably done with his NFL career as well, which is a shame. Tristan Wirfs was injured last year as well, and look, this offensive line got Brady banged up last year. Baker Mayfield behind a bad offensive line is not a good quarterback, and that really does worry me. So it's going to be very much just lobbing it up to Mark Evans and seeing how it goes. But this team just feels like a disaster. The defense will win a few games for them, but I'm not expecting much at all. The Panthers, I've got them going 8 and 9 and coming third in the division. It's a great start for Bryce Young in year one, but not a postseason visit, which is something it could be. But it's close, eight wins, which for a rookie quarterback is a really good going, to be honest with you. It's the same record they got last year as well. I worry about the offensive line, obviously because they traded that with Chicago, because it got them absolutely banged up in the game against the Jets, and the Jets' defensive line are really good, but they're like, Bryce was under pressure a lot in that game, and his size does concern me as well. But I think he's my favourite quarterback in the class for a reason, because he plays up. He plays like he's not 5'10", and that's what I like about him. And also that he's got a great arm, and he can move as well. So it's things that I like to see in a quarterback, and he does ticks both those boxes. Fingers crossed the defense can stay healthy, because they've got a good defense, but it's just that they don't really play together because they just get injured, whether it's JC Horn or Brian Burns or Shaq Thompson you can rely on, but and same with Frankie Louvu, but that's it. You've got two linebackers, and the rest of the team doesn't really normally stay healthy. So hopefully they can. It's a big gift for Brian Burns too as well. So hopefully he can put together a good season. But I just don't think they. I don't think the offensive line worries me, and one team that has a very good offensive line, which is why I've picked them above the Panthers, the Atlanta Falcons at 9 and 8, coming second in their division in the NFC South. I really like the playoff chances too. I think they've got a shot because they've got the league's easiest schedule. The team, they win games because they can run the ball like mad. They've got a terrific run game, and it's only going to get better too. But adding Bijan Robinson to it, on top of Tyler Algier and Cordero Patterson, and just something that backfield room is godly. They spent me on the defense too, because the defense really let them down last year. Then the defense of Marcus Mariota really was what stopped them from probably winning the division as well, to be honest with you, because they were a pretty good team on offense. Especially after they moved to Desmond Ridder as well, a quarterback who starts this year. Be interesting to see what happens with him. It sounds like it's a lot of checkdowns and stuff, but look, the way the team runs the ball, if you can just be a good game manager quarterback, you can probably get pretty far, especially in the NFC too. So that's what they're hoping for. Like I said, the offensive line's good. They brought back Kenneth Bagari. They paid Chris Lindstrom too. They've got Jake Matthews. They drafted Matthew Bergeron as well, starting in second round at guard too. He could be a future Jake Matthews replacement at left tackle. I love this team. I was really hard on them in the guide when I wrote about all the NFC South teams. And yeah, I really think if Ridder can play well, this team, or play to a pretty okay standard, this team will surprise many. And the way they run the ball is just like we saw it with Derrick Henry and Arthur Smith when he was in Tennessee. Like his scheme works, and it worked with those two. Imagine what it's going to look like with Bijan Robinson there as well. It's a scary thought. When he starts to get his reps, it's going to be very interesting to watch. And then Josh Pippen, the Falcons division at 9 and 8 too. I got the Saints, because I think Derek Carr will probably save Dennis Allen's job just about winning the division. It's a weird year for New Orleans because their offense is actually more talented than their defense this year. It sounds like a tight end Jordan Johnson's going to break out this year. They've got Michael Thomas back. Be interesting to see if he can actually stay healthy, because he obviously 3 years ago he led the league. 4 years ago now he led the league in receptions, breaking the reception record. Had one of the best receiving seasons of all time with Drew Brees there. And since then he's I think he's played 2 or 3 games in the last 3 seasons, which is just mad.
It's crazy.
He's been terribly unfortunate with with injuries and stuff. So been to see him play. I love the Jamal Williams addition to not only help complement Alvin Kamara, but also start the 3 games that Alvin Kamara suspended too. And he's a great running back to do that too. And I just Jamal Williams in the Superdome is going to be awesome because he's got such a great personality. He's in one of the best stadiums in the NFL too.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be awesome to see. And I really like the offense in general because you got Chris Olave, he's going into a second year, and I love Derek Carr as well. I think he's one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the NFL. And yeah, last year was a down year, but he had a muppet for a coach. So Pete Carmichael's always had a good offense. Obviously he had Sean Payton with him before, but I like where this team goes. The defense I'm a little bit more worried about because they've lost a few players and there's a lot of moving pieces in their defense. I think it won't be as good as it has been recently, but the offense will win the Saints division 9-8. How do you see it going?
I see Buccaneers in 4th as well, but I see him going 3-14. It's a race against time. It's a very aging squad, and as you said, I love Baker Mayfield as the person. The player, I'm not too keen on. I think, as you said, against a iffy offensive line, if they get banged up, it's not going to be good at all. I think they're going to regress from now. I think they know they're heading into a rebuild. I think, as you said, with the Kyle Trask stuff, surprised me. It's just, there's not many highlights this year for them. They've still got some great players on both sides, but we know this. But I just think Baker has an off year. I think they get banged up again. I know that's weird, like saying you think they're going to get injured, but I saw how they depleted last year after 1 or 2 key got injured, and it happens every season. No one stays healthy the entire, and if it takes 1 or 2 key players and the wheels fall off, and I got them going 3-14, it's a bit harsh. It is a bit harsh, but
no, I agree with you, man. I got them 3-14 as well.
I just don't see them doing much. I don't see them putting the stamp on the league at all. I've got the Saints in 3rd, however. You had them topping your division. I don't believe in Derek Carr. This offense is great.
Wow.
It's a lovely offense. It's a great offense. The defense is good. I agree. The offense is better than defense first time in a while. They've got great team. It's just I don't know why, but when I was doing the matchups, my gut told me that in divisional matches, I can see how Atlanta beat them. I can see how the Panthers beat them. I think they're going to struggle, especially in divisional matchups. I think they're not one-dimensional on offense, but Derek Carr isn't not a very multiple-dimensional player, is he? To be honest, I'm not too hot on Derek Carr.
They've got great skill positions, though, and that will only help.
They have got unbelievable skill positions, but it's going to be... I just don't believe it. I don't believe in them. I think they're going to struggle divisionally, and I think that's why I've got them sitting at 8 and 9. It's not the worst record. I just think divisional matchups probably lets them down. And then I've got the Carolina Panthers with a 9-8 record in 2nd. I think Bryce Young won Heisman. Bryce Young, we all know Bryce Young's a good player. The size is a scare. Of course it is. He's 5'10" in a grown man's league. But they got such a good team, both sides of the ball. Their defense is very talented. They got the weapons offensive for Bryce Young to succeed. And I think he does. It was a bit of a scare watching him against the Jets because the Jets looked so much quicker, so much more with it. But I think they struggled towards the start, and I think it clicks and they start chugging it away and getting a couple more wins. I think they missed playoffs, but I think they do get a 9-8 record, and I think it's an absolute success of the season for them. I don't really see them getting... I think their ceiling is 9-8. I can see how they can get under that. I don't think they get over 9-8. I've said it at their ceiling. Probably the best case scenario for them, because I want to see them do well. But yeah, we'll see. I think 9-8's a bit unrealistic, but I can see how it happens. And then I've got the Atlanta Falcons winning the division in 10-7. They have invested heavily in defense. They needed to. I think they've made great investments. They've got Bijan in. They've got Desmond Ridder starting. They've got Kyle Pitts if he can become the player that we all are waiting for him to become. That would be great. But a stable defense and a great run game. Pete Carroll's been living off that for years. So I think that's all you really need to get to the playoffs, especially in the division where you have a couple question marks. And I think that's what they'll do well. They'll be their bread and butter, and they will execute it well, and it will lead them to the playoffs. I think they win the division. I think it's a 10-7 record. I think they're not wow factor. I don't think they get far in the playoffs, but it's a good start. I believe the Bijan hype. I'd say I wrote in the guide, my hot take prediction was that Bijan's offensive rookie of the year, and he pushes for the rushing record title. And it's just, if he can get going, if Kyle Pitts can be who we think he can be, and if Desmond Ridder can turn up.
All he needs to do is turn up. That's all he needs to do.
If he could turn up, I think they're a very successful team, and a good defense, front-heavy offense. It works. It's worked time and time again, and I think it will work this year for them.
Awesome. Right, on to our playoff buckets now. We'll start with the AFC. So my first matchup in the AFC is the 4-seed Jags against the 5-seed Bills. I've got the Bills winning that. I've got the 2-seed Chiefs against the 7-seed Browns. I've got the Chiefs winning that. And I've got the 3-seed Jets against the 6-seed Steelers, and I've got the Jets winning that one. So my wildcard games in the AFC are the Bengals and the Bills. Sorry, my divisional games in the AFC are the Bengals and the Bills and Chiefs and the Jets, which is one hell of a divisional round. I've got the Bengals beating the Bills there, and I've got the Chiefs beating the Jets, setting up another Bengals-Chiefs championship game, this time in Cincinnati, but I've got the Chiefs winning out. And I've got the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl. How does your AFC look?
It's eerily similar and eerily different. I've got my 4 and 5 seed matchup is Bengals versus Jets. I've got 2 and 7 seed Bills versus Ravens, and I've got 3rd and 6th seed Jaguars versus Chargers. I think the Bengals beat the Jets. I think they, not comfortably, but I have them beating the Jets. I have Bills beating the Ravens. I think Bills are just so much more efficient at this stage. We all expect it. And I've got Jaguars versus Chargers, but I've got the redemption game for Justin Herbert. And I love it. I've got the Chargers coming through. I think the Jags will have a better year around, but I think the Chargers will win this matchup. So the divisional rounds, I have Bengals, Bills, similar to you, but I have Chargers versus Chiefs. I'm same as you. I'm taking the Bengals. I think the Bengals beat Bills. I think I trust them more postseason, which is a weird thing because they've been a bit but I trust them more postseason. And Chiefs Chargers, I'm taking Chiefs because it's the Chiefs. And in the AFC Championship game, Chiefs versus Bengals at Cincinnati as well, I'm going Bengals. I think this is gonna be the year where they break it. I think this is gonna be the year where we see.
Well, they've done it before. Yeah. They are the Chiefs' kryptonite in the playoffs.
Yep. I think they do it again. I think Joe Shiesty gets it done.
Oh yeah. Okay, on to the NFC now. I've got the 4 and 5 seeds Saints Seahawks. I've got the Seahawks going into the Superdome and winning that one. Eagles hosting the Lions as the 2 seed, as the 7 seed. The Eagles win that one. I've got the Vikings against the Cowboys, and Kirk Cousins wins a playoff game against Dallas. This is setting up 1 seed Niners against the 5 seed Seahawks. Division game. The Niners just win that one. And Eagles-Vikings, the Eagles win that one. It's too far of a cut to go any further. Let's be real, especially against this Eagles team. Eagles-Niners in the championship game, and it's going to go the same way it did last year. The Eagles winning it, setting up a repeat Super Bowl. Chiefs versus the Eagles again. And my winner of that one is the Eagles. I've got the Eagles going for revenge this time. Jalen Hurts was so close to winning the Super Bowl last year. He had the perfect losing Super Bowl quarterback performance. Like, he was amazing.
Oh, mate, he was the MVP.
I mean, look. His fumble did ultimately prove costly, but the rest of his performance in that game was
unreal, outstanding.
The throw to AJ Brown at the corner of the end zone right at the start of the game was one of the best I've ever seen. And I think that we'll get a repeat Super Bowl and the Eagles win out this time. How do you see the NFC going, and who is your Super Bowl?
If that is what happens, and the script writers have done a good job, that's a good season.
Exactly.
I've got I've got the 4th seed Falcons taking on the 5th seed Cowboys, and I've got the Cowboys winning that. I think the Falcons will be good this year, but they won't be that good. They'll be 1 and done in the playoffs. I don't see them, getting far. I've got the 2nd seed 49ers versus 7th seed Vikings. I had the 49ers winning that. I don't think Kirk wins in the postseason. I'm not going to lie. I love him. I love it if he did, especially against the 49ers, but I don't see it happening. And I've got the 6th seed Seahawks versus the 3rd seed Lions, and I have the Seahawks winning that one. So in the divisional rounds, I have the 5th seed Cowboys versus the 2nd seed 49ers. I have the 49ers taking that. I think it won't be as comfortable as we have seen it, but I think it will be pretty comfortable. And I have the first seed Eagles versus the 6th seed Seahawks, and I think the Eagles, can't compete, can't compete. And then same as you, rematch.
You got the exact same championship games.
Yep.
As last year as well. That's mental. Exactly the same.
It's the same cast every year. I've also got the Eagles taking it. They're just a better team. On their day, both of them evenly matched. If they're both of them on their peak, on their prime, the Eagles are a better team, and I have to assume that at the time there will be. And I've got Bengals, Eagles, Super Bowl, and I have also think that the Eagles are going to take it. I think this is the Eagles' year. They've got, as we said, the best roster we've seen probably ever. Well, we've seen in our lifetimes probably ever. And they deserve one. They came so close last year. It's going to propel them to win it. It's going to be a great moment, and I think they win it. And I think the Super Bowl is going to be a good one. I think if it is Bengals Eagles Super Bowl, I think it's going to be tight. But I think the Eagles have that little bit more experience and that little bit extra edge. Don't know how Joe Burrow will do, losing 2 Super Bowls already this early in his career, but it's not my problem. So I'm going with the Eagles.
and this is Cincinnati's time as well. If they're going to win it now. If they're going to win it now, they have. It's now. But
it's now or never.
If they're going to win a Super Bowl, they're going to win it now. But
it's now or
they're
never.
just unfortunately played 2 godly teams in the Eagles and the Rams. Those teams, it'll be very unfortunate. But thank you very much for coming on, Owen. It's been great to have you.
Oh, good mate. All the best.
I've just jumped on the. You probably heard me through the floorboards.
Only 2 floors below.
It's been great having you on, mate. We'll get you on for sure again, especially when we're against the clock really on a Sunday night preview or something like that.
Cheers for having me.
But no, thank you for coming on. If you want to check him out, is on the screen now, or just tell everyone where they can reach you and where they can read your stuff, mate.
It's just mainly on Twitter, or X as it's called now, at Ocards. I post about mostly all American sports. I watch them all. I do quite a lot of stuff about that. So reach me on there. My Instagram's the same if you want to have a look at that. Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, mate. We'll have you on again. And thank you for listening to the Full 10 Yards NFL podcast. It's been great. It's been a bit of a bumper one too. It's been a massive season prediction episode. I don't think it would go on for this long, but here we are. We've had it. It's been a great conversation, really, and it's been very much informal NFL chat, really. Just we've not really got many notes going into this one, just because I've previewed it now. We're just predicting and seeing how we honestly think it will go. So it's been that theme of the podcast this week, and we'll see you now for the preview of Thursday Night Football, the NFL kickoff on Wednesday. It's been a great game. It'll be a great affair. And I'll join you for the preview of that game to start off the NFL season on Wednesday. Thank you for joining me again, Owen, mate, and thank you for listening to the Full 10 Yards NFL podcast. I will see you next time.